Welcome to Spark Faith with me, Dr. Kris Sargent. This show is about renewed health, rooted in truth, and restored by grace. What does finding health look like for you? Do you have a vision for your future self and a way to get there? I'm Dr. Kris, and after 33 years in functional medicine and a lifelong journey through brain health, weight loss, hormones, mindset, and faith, I know that real transformation doesn't come from willpower or white-knuckling your way to wellness. It comes from gratitude, honoring your body as the temple that God created. This show is about body stewardship, not shame. It's about rewiring your mindset, your metabolism, and your spirit to find lasting health without the grind. I'll help you cut through the noise, see opportunities instead of obstacles, and finally live the healthy, purposeful life you were created for. Let's spark faith and transformation together. Spark Faith starts now. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the Spark Faith Show. I am Dr. Kris Sargent, and today we are going to pull back the curtain on my life, right? So here's the thing. I've been thinking about this since our last episode and how maybe some of y'all are out there going, okay, you have given us all the physiology. You've given us all the physical reasons why we need to do this. We know, we understand blood sugar, we understand nervous system and how all that interplays with our hormones. We understand our hormones better. And so that's a lot of practical information. And it's like, okay, great. This seems like a lot and I have no idea and it's overwhelming and I can't even start your program because I wouldn't even know where to begin. And you can't be doing all of this yourself, blah, 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 right? Okay. So I think we need to get a handle on expectations and where I started, where I am now, and where you might be, right? Because I know everybody out there is starting in a different place. We're starting from a different place. And I just want to make sure that that we're like on the same level here. So I'm going to pull back the curtain, and I've shared little bits and pieces of my own story since December of kind of falling apart physically and not really being able to do the things that I needed to do. And I had been training, I had been counting calories and macros, and I've done a lot of the things, mostly some for personal reasons, some for professional reasons. I wanted to understand what would happen if XYZ, if I did ABC, if I did this test, if I tried that supplement, blah, blah, blah. So just so you know, I might have done what you're doing already, just out of 35 years of experience and figuring out my own health journey and figuring out what might work for y'all. So over the last several weeks, I've shared a little bit about mindset shifts that I've been making in my own health journey. And after last week's episode, some of y'all might be thinking, okay, but what does this look like in real life? Okay, because here's the truth, right? I don't wake up every single morning feeling motivated to go to the gym, right? I would much rather sit and spend more time in prayer or spend more time reading my book or even spending more time studying, sometimes anything other than getting out of the house around early or dark 30, or right now it's 6:45, so that I can get to the gym during a time when it's not so busy and I can get my work done and get out, right? But I don't wake up every morning ready to do that. And I don't magically have any extra hours in a day, right? God did not just gift me with 25 hours or 30 hours a day. I still own a business and run a business. I'm still in seminary, pretty much full time in a master's program. I am a newlywed. I am a parent to two adult children, one Division I baseball player, one artist. And so I still do laundry, right? I don't have a maid. I still do meal prep. I prep for my podcast. I see clients. And yes, I definitely can struggle with time management and keeping things organized. Particularly, Richard will tell you that I am definitely not the neat one in our relationship. I am not the organized one. I am not, yeah, I'm not the tidy one. He is. And it's a beautiful mix. So, anyway, I'm still keeping up with all those things. And, at one point I did all that and took care of my mom. So, I just thought I'd share a few practical things that have made the biggest difference in my own Living Fresh journey. So today, no fancy physiology, just a little bit of real life, right? RL. So, the first thing I want to talk about, which can sound a little bit boring, is time and time management. And it isn't about finding more time because there is no more time to actually find, right? We're all gifted with 24 hours in a day. We need to spend 7 or 8 of those hours sleeping, actually, right? Whether that includes, maybe 8 hours for sure, including your some wind down time and then a little bit of stretching before you get out of bed, right? So I kind of need to confess that time management is not my greatest strength always, right? I am an Enneagram 3. And if you don't know what that means, I am a producer. I am a driver. I get stuff done. I like to be doing. I love projects. I am an idea factory. I love creating, which also means I can convince myself that I have enough time to do 3 hours of work in an hour. And honestly, right, I actually have this alter ego that, in many of you may or may not know who I'm about to mention. My Martha Stewart self back in the day when she was making her own marshmallows for her s'mores. Um, that's a thing. I mean, it's way before some of y'all were even born, but I just think that there's plenty of time to do everything I want to do. However, the problem was that I wasn't really valuing, that I didn't value my health. The problem was that I expected to fit health into kind of whatever time was left over, right? Yes, I planned my workouts. Yes, I knew it had to happen in the morning. However, sometimes getting out of the house is throwing in an extra load of laundry and doing the dog walk first or making sure blah, blah, blah happened, right? And what I've learned over the last few months is healthy living really doesn't happen because you finally get organized. All right. I didn't have to get all of my ducks in a row. And if you could see behind me, you'd know that there were several boxes on the floor from moving in April. Yep. So it happens because I had to make a decision about what is important enough to schedule. And now, literally, my workouts are on my calendar. Blah. I know some of you are like, I hate the calendar and I'm not going to calendar everything. And that's fine. However, that means to work for you. I'm just going to tell you that whether it's in written form or on a Google Doc or in a notes app or somewhere, you probably have a checklist. And if it's sitting in your brain, it needs to get out onto a piece of paper or into some kind of document, whichever way you prefer to have your life kind of organized ish. Okay. And I can only say that because already, like I've just confessed, not the most organized person. So now I understand that my meal prep needs to be calendarized. grocery shopping needs to be on my calendar because if it's not scheduled, honestly, life will gladly schedule something else, and my idea factory will schedule something else that's way more fun and way more creative and feels like I'm actually doing something. And so, honestly, our calendars and our checkbooks reveal our priorities way better than our intentions ever will. I know that's a hard pill to swallow, right? Because when you take a look at your checkbook, you see where your money is being spent. And if a budget is important to you, then you have to figure out, oh, well, all those Amazon stops or all the Amazon packages that are showing up may or may not be that important, right? And the time that it took for you to scroll through Amazon to find those things could be time used elsewhere. Okay, so I'm going to drop some bombs here in an attempt to help you understand the way I had to think about the time and how I was using my time. And if we're scrolling, doom scrolling, right? First of all, we know that that's a dopamine addiction in a way and not the productive way to spend our time or create our own dopamine. All right. If you listen back, I have several episodes about creating dopamine in positive ways and being able to keep those things in perspective. So I'm going to just tell you that your calendar and your checkbook will reveal your priorities way more than what your intentions will. All right. So let's talk about another, like a practical aspect of that. And it's something that I know a lot of you have done and like, yeah, and I got away from it because I went on vacation or I got away from it because of something, life happened, blah, 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 right? And I have to tell you, for a while, and you can look back in my old Instagram posts, I thought that meal prep had to look like Instagram, right? Like perfect, identical containers, the perfect recipes, lots of time in the kitchen. And as much as I love to cook, and I do, and I know that some of you don't, and I'm here for that too. Some of you don't love to cook, but here's the thing. I didn't have that kind of time along with everything else that I was trying to do. And so I've created like meal prep in the simplest way possible, right? And I'm fortunate enough to have a nice big grill outside so I can make lots of food at the same time. However, that wasn't always the case. And so any good size baking dish can create the same meals that I'm creating, right? It doesn't take any longer to make 4 chicken breasts for your family and your dinner than it does to make 12. And if you make 12, that's a lot less meal prep. It's at least 3 more meals for your family that you don't have to spend time cooking when you get home from work or get home from wherever it is or whatever it is that you're doing, taking kids, doing carpools, whatever all those things are that are in your life right now. So it can look different than what you think it needs to look like, right? And it also doesn't have to just be chicken breasts, right? If you're going to make your family burgers, you might as well make 10 of them or 12 of them and have some extra left over because you can cut them up and put them into a salad. You can cut them up and make them into tacos. You can cut them up and or you can just have more burgers or you can put them between lettuce wraps. You can cut them and put them in a wrap and make something else out of it. So it doesn't have to look like I've got my 6 little containers and they all have their perfect carbohydrate and protein and veggie and all those things. I am here to blow that up out of the water. Mine it's for me, and I think you might understand this as I talk a little bit more. I keep it really simple, right? Protein is what I prep. I prep protein. And the reason behind that is that's what takes time. That's what takes the most amount of time, because if you get home from a long day of taking care of kids and parents and whatever, all the things that you do, and there's frozen chicken breasts in the freezer, hard as a rock, and maybe a box of easy tacos or a pizza, or no, we're just gonna DoorDash it tonight. You're gonna take the easy route, right? So I figured out that if I made enough protein for at least 4 days, that I really only had to cook protein twice a week. Baked potatoes, rice, veggies. These things are simple and take less than 20 minutes if your protein is already done. So I cook up a batch of protein and put them in glass dishes and throw them in my fridge. The only time those glass dishes are opened is when I'm pulling out what I need for a meal, and they go right back in the fridge. And so they easily last for 4 days. I do not have to do anything else, right? I keep fruit really simple. Strawberries, blueberries, things that I don't have to cut up, right? I don't want to cut stuff up because that is just boring and time consuming. And veggies, okay, to cut up a whole head of cauliflower takes less than 3 minutes, right? Like chunk, 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 chunk. You can just get it done and throw it in the microwave, steam it, add a little butter, add some seasoning, and good to go, right? Because here's the thing, when life gets busy, and we all know that it does, I don't have time either to negotiate with myself. And I don't want to take the time to be like, oh, I should be eating this or should be eating that. I've already made that decision. There's chicken, there's burgers, there's steaks, there's something in there already, right? So I also make my dog food, right? So I do that 6 pounds at a time. So that I'm only making food for him like once every 5 or 6 days, just like I do for my family. Uh, Rice can be cooked ahead. Potatoes, even baked potatoes, can be cooked ahead and just put them in a dish, right? You've got Greek yogurt, non-fat, full fat, whatever it is you're at, wherever you are in your plan. Boiled eggs. These are all grab and go options. And so the less I have to think about things, the more likely I am to stay consistent, right? And my coach laughs at me. She's like, okay, food is not the issue here. It's resting. And she's always telling me, not telling you, she's always telling me that rest has to be a more important priority. So, and I've told you that over the last few weeks as well. So, there are plenty of nights that meal prep may suspiciously look like scrambled eggs and Greek yogurt, right? So it's never perfect, but it's something that can be done fairly easily and fairly quickly. And meal prep is definitely not about perfection by any stretch of the imagination. For me, it's making tomorrow easier. It's making my next meal easier. And so, I also think that setting up those kind of expectations for yourself is a really big lesson. So when I started working with my coach, I thought I would have immediate results. My goal was to be thinner for my wedding, but what my body needed was something completely different. I needed time to restore myself. And I got to tell you, it's that skinnier self was not what needed to show up for my wedding. All right. That skinnier self was absolutely the wrong goal and the wrong expectations that I needed to shift around in my head. What needed to happen was for my body to be stronger, right? For my body to be more rested, for my body to be able to do the things that I needed to do to be a good wife. It wasn't about feeling stronger immediately. It wasn't about eating to feel more comfortable. It wasn't about a fast mindset set change, right? None of that happened. There were weeks when I questioned everything, everything. There were weeks when I wondered if eating more was a mistake. And I think I mentioned that, right? I had believed some lies that were clearly not true. However, I had spent decades building certain beliefs. And, honestly, I don't expect any of my clients to change overnight. So why would I expect myself to do that? Growth takes time. Building muscle takes time. Changing habits takes time, right? And renewing our mind takes time. And so setting some healthy expectations will protect you from unnecessary disappointment. And was I a little disappointed when my coach kept telling me, hey, this isn't about getting skinnier. This is about being stronger and being more vital. And it finally sunk in, right? And I met with her last week and she basically said, you've got a couple more months of this. And I was like, oh, okay. So the next process that I'm going to go through with her is not going to start until September. And I thought that I was going to start my program at that place. So this is a completely different place to start, in a completely different place than I ever expected to be on my journey. And I want to put that out there to help you wrap your head around some healthy expectations, right? And the key to that is really the last thing that I want to talk about today is trusting the process. So, if you've listened over the last few episodes, I think you've heard me say that I gradually had to increase my calories to 2,000 a day. And that's called maintenance. Y'all, maintenance. Maintain. That's just maintaining my body. And yes, I'm still smile when I say that, because if somebody had told me a year ago that I would be eating that much and my weight wouldn't change, I would have laughed hysterically, right? I would have been like, no way, not going to happen. And I told you last week, like I confess, right? Like there was a lot of fear around that because I thought what I was doing was working. And what was actually happening was I was getting weaker and weaker and weaker, right? So, again, if you had told me a year ago that I'd be eating 2,000 calories and maintaining my weight, I might have panicked or laughed or both. And every week and every day that went by, I had a choice. I could trust decades of fear, or I could trust a new process. So let that sink in. Are you trusting decades of fear, or are you going to trust a new process? So the same thing happened at the gym, right? Every week, she was like, keep going, add a little weight. My son and I had to have this conversation. He was like, Mom, in order to do progressive overload, you have to overload, which means you don't know what overload is until you fail. And so I had to embrace failure at the gym of not being able to do 10 reps. Like, oh gosh, I only got 6. What the heck? That just means I have potential to get to 10 the next week, right? And every week I've been able to increase that. And the experience changed something way deeper than my muscles, right? It changed my confidence. Those areas of the gym that we're all afraid of or were afraid of are not that way anymore. Last week, I shared a short story about birdseed, right? Which seems so inane. However, that 40-pound bag of birdseed or dog food were getting harder to carry. And I didn't want to admit that, right? So it wasn't really about the birdseed, right? I realized that I needed to shift something for my life. This was about carrying groceries when I'm 80. This was about moving furniture around my house when I wanted to in my older years. This was about hiking and being mobile when I go to Greece or Italy or Israel or someplace, right? This was about being able to help my grandkids someday, right? This was about saying yes to adventures that I don't even know may come in my life instead of wondering whether my body could handle them. And if those are stories that you're already telling yourself, I don't think my body can handle this, let this sink in because it can and it will. It does take time, and you have to be willing to put that time in. But that really hit me hard. Strength isn't really measured by what I can lift in the gym today. It's going to be measured by what I can do and have freedom outside of the gym. And so, as the months progressed and I picked up that giant bag of bird seed at Costco the other day, I realized that, whoa, not only could I pick it up, but when I got home, I carried it to the back deck, right? And I didn't need to stop. I didn't need to ask for help, which that's a whole different program, right? Not that I couldn't have asked for help. My husband was standing right there, right? But I smiled to myself and I was proud, not just of lifting the bird seed, but because I'm building a life that I actually want to live 20 years from now, right? So what we do now is how we're going to be able to live in the future. So trusting the process really can teach you how to trust yourself again. And this is really through this journey of stewardship. Stewardship isn't dramatic. It's choosing the ordinary, it's choosing the non-sexy things, and it's keeping promises to yourself to be faithful in all of those little things. All right, y'all, this has been kind of serious. And I know that. And life that we want isn't usually built in giant leaps, right? It's built over hundreds of tiny little ordinary decisions repeated over time. I love, love, love you all. Do not compare your beginning with someone else's middle or end. And this is what you see on Instagram. Just know that living fresh is a very different way to move through that, but it's going to be a fun ride, right? All right, y'all. Enough for today. I want you to understand that we are here to renew your health, rooted in truth, and really just trusting that grace has us every single day. I love you guys. Hit subscribe, hit like, reach out to me. I do see clients. I'd love to hear from you. And I love you. See you next week. You've been listening to Spark Faith with me, Dr. Kris Sargent. This show is about renewed health, rooted in truth, and restored by grace. Tune in every Thursday morning at 9:30 a.m. Pacific on the Transformation Talk Radio for more simple, faith-fueled steps to live the vision God placed in your heart. Are you ready to take the next step? Schedule a discovery call or connect with me at drkrissargent.com. That's DRKRIS Sargent.com. While you're there, download my free ebook, Endless Energy, the 6 non-negotiable keys to endless energy, and sign up for an upcoming masterclass. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share the show, and I'd love to connect with you on social media at Dr. Kris Sargent. Let's keep sparking faith and transformation together. Can't wait to see y'all next time.